Is medical marijuana disingenuous? Is it legalization on the cheap? Are we incentivizing all these people to lie about their medical conditions so they can get medical marijuana when really they're using it recreationally? And I've got a couple responses to that, and it's a great point. And it's actually the Denver Post point. You know, Denver Post favors legalization. They think medical marijuana is kind of a ruse to get there, and they think it's a cheap ruse to get there. My first response to that is, you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to say whether an individual is faking their medical condition or not. That's a subjective medical decision that a doctor makes, and so, you know, and that's my response as to all of those arguments. But, you know, I think the perception, and perception matters in our business of politics, the perception is that there are some people that are faking it, that are going to the doctor and lying about their back pain, just like I'm sure there are many people who fake it to get their Percocet, OxyContin, and various narcotics, that I don't think any of us or nobody is seriously arguing that those narcotics that are dangerous and potentially lethal be banned because a minority of people are faking their conditions to get that. So I always strive to get people to think about marijuana along those same lines as even more dangerous narcotic drugs and try to get the logic out of the way there. But, you know, it is an excellent point that marijuana, medical marijuana, we cherry-picked as a movement, as the pro-legalization movement. We took the most appealing use of marijuana. Marijuana has 1,000 beneficial uses. The medical use is probably the most politically appealing one of those uses. It's more appealing to have a disabled veteran, 65 years old, in a wheelchair, who gave his you know, health to his country and fought in Vietnam, needs a little bit of bud to assuage whatever problems he has. It's more appealing to use that as a political argument than a 21-year-old who wants to choose marijuana instead of alcohol. So, you know, that is the reality, and we live in a culture, in a political system of baby steps. I use the civil rights analogy, and it's not a perfect analogy by any means. Rosa Parks did not start with desegregating whites-only golf country clubs. That is a less appealing step for the desegregation movement to take. That came years, decades later, after Rosa Parks started with a more basic, appealing angle, which is desegregating buses that everybody use and ought to be open to everybody and everybody understands it. They started with lunch counters, basic, bottom line, you know. So this is a political movement, and I think those who advocated medical marijuana, and I'm one of them, still advocate it. You know, we're taking baby steps. We're trying to end prohibition, and we took an important step. And the important thing about medical marijuana is it has normalized it to some degree. I mean, my mother driving along the street sees a dispensary, sees open, you know, sales taxed of medical marijuana, sees that Western culture can survive such a prospect, and in time, hopefully, the message will come through that we can have this, we can do this, we can make tax revenue off it, we can serve people who need it, whether for medical purposes or others, and I think eventually maybe we get to legalization as a whole through medical marijuana. But it is a good point. It's a reasonable point for our opponents to make, and you know, there is a response to it, and there's a reasonable response to it as well. The other thing, as far as political candidates and you know, political officials are concerned, I've talked to at least a dozen sitting, serving Republican officials, none of whom I can name, who've, you know, taken me aside and said, "Oh man, I'm with you all the way. I think you're making a great argument, but I've got to run for re-election. I'm running in this suburban Republican district. You know, I don't think my folks are going to go for this, so I'm cheering for you quietly. I just want you to know that." And I appreciate that. I'm not going to out these people, you know, and I appreciate the candor. They're more politically savvy than I'll ever be. They know what it takes to win in their districts, and I don't. I guess my response, though, to that is, you know, when does it end? I mean, eventually you're doing this political thing because you believe in something, and you're doing it to advance something, right? I mean, you're not just, it's not, serving in office is probably a lot of fun, and you probably get a lot of perks, and it's cool to have someone kiss your ass all day long, or multiple people kiss your ass all day long, but, you know, eventually you're doing this to advance something, and you've got to make the tough decisions. Maybe this is an issue that's worth you know, taking a hit on, and no pun intended, and talking to your people and back in your district and saying, you know, I don't smoke marijuana myself, I don't advocate you. This is about a larger issue. This is about freedom, and I'm for freedom when it's convenient, and I'm for freedom when it's inconvenient. And you know, I think that does resonate. The voters are smart. They get stuff like this, and maybe they won't get it right away, but it'll get through eventually.